It's not good, it's just from.
So-
Okey-dokey.
Review community day map.
Right, there you go.
I'm
So,
Looks good.
Slowly, I'm really tired. So I feel like.
Very easy to take care of yourself above
Thanks.
all.
and this, like we said, this will be, I mean, at a
Yeah.
minimum, this has to match what's on
Yeah.
yours, so that's an agreement.
Right.
These numbers have to match, I don't know
Right.
if you guys have acres, oh, yeah, you do, I think, but they'll match,
Mhm.
those numbers, so that, so that's the comment that I'll include,
Mhm.
Space,
Yeah.
add
something.
pollinator,
Beautiful, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
pollinator, pathway,
Open space.
property.
Stats, okay.
Yeah.
Let's take these off and you
Yeah.
can see anyone. It'd just be a blur.
We're here,
It's very pleasant.
we're ambiguous, sometimes ambiguity is good, right?
When I lost my glasses, I couldn't find my old pairs. I went 20 years ago to find a pair of glasses. I really didn't even feel safe driving because that's how old the prescription is for it, yeah.
Well, yeah, I've been driving with my prescription sunglasses, it looks like, I don't know what.
So, what other questions we have about this then?
Me?
Anyone? You, well, I was looking at you,
What
I guess,
exactly
but,
is this?
so for the community day, we have a table.
Okay, we do have a
We have a
table.
We have a table. We think, right?
Okay.
Conservation board, we
In a
can have a
garden
table if we
club.
want one, right?
Did somebody
Yes,
request
I
it?
don't know if anybody requested it. Was somebody gonna do that? That wasn't on my
Wasn't there a garden club table?
Okay, so there
Yeah.
is a
There's
garden
another
club table,
Yeah,
and there's definitely a healthy yards table.
yes.
And we talked
And now
about
there's a
that.
pollinator pathway table.
We're gonna try
gonna
to
try,
get rid of
okay.
No, we don't.
But, well, the question is, as much as I'd like to have a conservation board table, do we have anything to do and have it to talk about?
So,
Yeah, I think it's probably encompassed by the other.
And who can staff it, because
Tributaries.
you guys are gonna be staffing pollinator pathways.
It's gonna be multiple, we're gonna be rotating
Around, I know, and I'm on the Epic one too, so that one I'm rotating among as
Right.
well.
so what we could do is we have the
Buffer flyer.
buffer flyer.
We
And
have our goals.
we
We have our goals,
we have
we
our
can make that
goals.
nice.
And
Yeah.
we can direct to website
Yeah,
with that. And so we'll consider this a stepping stone to having a full table with the banner and everything geared up for the next year with that. But we can certainly, the hedge, I still wanna call it a hedgerow, the landscape buffer actually ties in healthy yards, pollinator pathway as the bridge with that.
so
The timing is good for fall planting, actually, with the plants that are listed there, I mean,
no, I'm just saying, so you're suggesting not having a table.
Because
And I personally am fine with that.
Yeah, I think that's
Well, we
fine,
have- we
because I
have
think
this
that.
too.
Right,
I mean,
we
couldn't
can,
we
yeah,
just-
so we
I mean,
can,
I
something like
stand
this,
around
right?
or hold- pass things out, I don't have to be at
Yeah,
the
so
table.
this,
the
and then,
Newcastle Healthy
I
Yards
kinda
people
move
can get it,
around.
we can do
yeah, we can have it on the
that.
buffer.
Encompasses all those
And
things.
also,
Because
we
it's
can
not
make
a
this
plant
more
process.
user friendly, like,
Yeah,
and then even to put more, like, we could put our web page on it, for example, not that anyone ever looks at that, but like we put that on, we have this,
So are you
couldn't it just
suggesting
be
that we
put
should
in
have
the
a table?
background?
I'm suggesting we shouldn't have a table. Cause I don't think we have anything to do.
Speaking
I think
to
you're
what?
correct, I don't think.
What, in other words, when you're suggesting these ideas?
We could put it on one of your tables.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah,
my sense
well-
is that Healthy Yards could definitely take the buffer.
Right.
And does the town has other tables, which maybe the
Oh, there
main
you go.
goal sheet could be there
Yeah,
to give.
or a better sheet.
they
B&B
usually
has a
have-
table, I think, they usually do, I don't know if they're gonna do that this year.
Who is? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Beautification Advisory Board,
Right.
they usually have a table. I don't know, Sustainability Advisory Board probably has a
They do,
table.
I'm sure they will.
And then, what other town tables would there be?
Planning
I'm
board?
sure there's,
I mean, I don't think they would be there, would they?
I think the administration typically has
Yes.
it, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure they have
yeah,
a
I think they
presence.
sometimes do that, right?
Yeah, I can't
Well,
remember
I'm
how
sure
they.
we could put this stuff I mean, it's all part of the
right,
town.
right.
So we need, like, how many copies? 200 copies?
I think if we have 50 for the Healthy Yards table, so 200 copies, we'll split it among the groups. Is that reasonable to ask for 200 copies of that?
No, I
Sounds
can make
Dennis.
that.
Unless, what is your feeling, Dennis? Were you looking forward to having a conservation board table?
I think they were trying to use that big room.
Okay, thanks.
I think to your point, if you have nothing that after someone comes to the table to,
Right.
Give
It's
them,
better to have a
Maintain-
big push later.
then, yeah.
we want people, I mean, and also there's so much overlap in terms of mission.
Right.
I don't know what we're,
Like, in other words, if we were ready to do a
ask.
Glazier project, and we could be getting volunteers signed on,
Well,
then that
this is
feels
electronically,
different, but it
you
almost
can
feels
email it to me.
premature. We can always do a kickoff of whatever we're doing
yeah, I
at
don't know what
Glazier,
it is,
you know what I mean, we don't need to use Community Day for that.
So is it on
Yeah,
our
I
page?
totally agree, I don't think, I
Hopefully
think
we
there's
can-
gonna be
yes,
enough
because
here.
We'll have
we
the
referred to
photos
people,
and
so
we can
that
then
is on
describe
there.
the project that
This
we did.
is, I don't think that's
Right.
And that is
Yeah, and I
something
think we
that
did
then
another
segues
version of
into
this, 'cause
volunteers
I don't
for
think
the
you wanna
next
hand
project.
out
Yeah.
like goal
Oh,
15.
that I have, yeah.
But we don't
yeah,
want, this isn't a handout.
That's out of context.
You know, it says like goal 15, goal 16,
yeah.
goal 18.
It's
Yeah.
out of
We had that
context,
other one that
yeah.
we made.
Right. I think this thing is really.
No, that one, everybody should have gotten in their mail, as
This
we
is
know.
the one that we handed out at
Pollinator Week,
Pollinator Week.
Right,
Yeah.
but
is there another version?
I
Not
think
that
we had,
know
I
of.
thought we had one. But, you know, I had this
You know,
giant mess
we
here.
could
but that's the
even,
one
with
I've
more
seen.
timing, I could come up with some of the plants that we have on that list.
To bring them with us?
Yeah.
That would be great.
week?
Oh, no, if I had more time,
I'm gonna
yeah.
say.
Well, 'cause I could dig up, I have,
I thought you made dig up our
I
yard.
thought I did.
well, no, and I have little baby
You know,
oaks,
I
and I
didn't
have
see
stuff
it.
on that list, and I'd like
Did
to
we
do
make it more
one
like
from each
this?
of the layers, but I just need
Great.
more time.
Oh,
I
No,
can
we
bring some
didn't,
too.
because the
Okay.
detail was
We could
considered
make
to
a
be
hedge.
too
Much.
much, so.
We could do a little hedgerow
That would be great.
where?
That would be great.
This one was
with
too
different,
much.
that have been hand
We
dug,
could show them.
and then we could show them the layers.
Create one,
No.
so they could see them side by side and how they look all together. That's a nice idea.
Kids could
Yeah,
play
there was so
with
much
that.
detail that people.
Make a
people
hedge.
Too
were
much.
Too much.
This is,
Make
it
a
is,
hedge.
Put it in whatever order you like it to be, and they always, it always looks good.
Interesting idea.
Make a hedge.
Yeah, what do you think is a beautiful hedge?
Not for now, but for future.
Make a hedgerow.
Hedgerow.
Guess what I'm doing
Make
when
a
I go to
hedge.
England?
We'll dig
That's
out
what I'm
different
thinking.
yards, different
When are you
examples
going
of
to England?
shrubs, and put them in
In
pots,
2
and then
weeks.
kids can make a hedgerow, mix and match.
Where?
different orders.
Oh, okay.
I
Fun,
went to London
interactive.
and then we're
Okay, I
driving
missed
up to
the beginning,
Edinburgh,
so I was like,
to Scotland.
Oh,
Yes,
So,
I captured it.
yeah, if husband has reserved a car, that's a whole other thing, let me just leave that aside right now.
Alright, well, the question
Make a
is,
hedgerow, 2020.
Yeah, you can
That's-
start taking
Should I
some
take this and make a
photos.
copy and return it to you, because I'll try
We'll
to get,
definitely
I'll
have
just
it.
try to get the electronic so that
Sure.
it would probably print up better than me making
Yes,
copies of
yes,
this,
exactly.
you
So-
know?
Alright, that's great, okay.
That's great, thank you.
And then this we're not gonna use.
yeah, what we need
If I have
is.
this-
Oh, I actually have more copies, so. you
Can I have
Okay.
one copy of, do you have another copy of this?
No,
Fine.
but you can
But we
have
made
this
it,
one.
right?
Electronic.
We made that though,
We
right?
did, yeah, I don't have a copy with me, I just
Okay.
I only
Oh.
have one copy, but this
But
I
it must
thought-
be on our website then, right?
It's on the website, yeah.
Okay, so-
No, that's on the website.
Okay.
This
So-
this I don't think is on the website.
Where did we get this from then? Because we had it
I
made with
made it
them.
up.
You made it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I didn't
Oh.
make it up.
No, I didn't mean that. I meant you did it with the logo and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was a figment of Sue's imagination.
I didn't intend that to be interpreted
And I
that way, I'm
circulated
sorry.
it to
I remember
people,
seeing
and
it
everybody
now.
said this was an okay amount of detail.
Yes.
Right, so that we don't, you know.
But I'm just saying
commit to too
for
much.
the
Yeah, it's out of context though, I know what you're saying, cause like that came out of a plan
number one,
that I
right,
read,
for us,
it's 50 pages
goals
and
is
then
fine, but for a
yeah,
Yeah,
for a
so we're
handout
not
at
gonna
a
do this
town
handout.
thing.
Yeah.
But I think we should do
But
something.
it's very close to being ideal, I think, it's very close. It just needs different headers over the each
Can you send that to me
paragraph.
soft copy, please?
Okay.
And then
In other words, if we
You won't
just
even have to have
all
the
the
numbers.
goals, what they
well,
are.
right, and I'm not
Yeah.
great at this stuff, but I will try to do like a,
Right.
Because each goal, we could say what it is.
and I think we only need like we can even make it maybe a half page or something like that, and then put our like web page on it,
How to contact us or something.
and then cut it in half and let everybody like just take a piece of paper if they want.
But it
You know
has a
what I
lot of good information, it says who's on the conservation
mean?
board.
Yeah.
It's good, thank you for your efforts, and
Yes.
we could just build on it a little bit.
So you are gonna have that?
Well, she's gonna redo it
I'm gonna
and
try to
make it
reduce,
shorter.
make it shorter and take out the goal, the word goal. Not,
Are there gonna be, can you replace those words with a header, like a bolded header of what the
oh, like
category of each one
what the other, what they were, like
What the
healthy
what
or
were.
healthy environment or whatever it was.
Right, habitat
Maybe,
development.
like harmony with nature, healthy
Right,
community,
those-
responsible
Oh, you mean like,
regionalism.
yeah,
Those
that
headers.
sounds like an idea.
I will try.
Yeah,
And then it might give them a little context, basically it's just replacing the number of the goal with what the goal is, and it keeps the bullets under it. The best of all worlds, maybe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to even find where that is. Goal 50. Oh, here it is. Protect and maintain the town's environmentally sensitive areas. Right. All right. Let me give it a whirl, and I'll get it out to you guys.
But isn't that what that is? Where
Yeah,
you're
it says that
using-
there. That's what it
Right,
is. That's
yeah.
the goal.
Uh-huh.
So maybe we don't even
Maybe
need
we
the
just
goal.
bold this, what you have already as what it is, and we just take away the goal.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever you wanna do.
Where would
So
we,
I'm just- I
where
don't
would
know
we
what-
have that sit
Okay,
though?
are you doing that or am I
No,
doing
you can
it?
do it now because you have it soft. Just take out the word goal and bold the first
Okay.
sentence.
Right,
yeah.
but
Get
then,
rid of it now.
but then where
Sorry.
is that
No,
going to
okay,
sit for
so-
community
all
day?
right.
Or is that just gonna go on the
Sure,
website
I can
then?
see it. So,
Good question.
Because,
Well, we could say we could try to find a town board
right,
that will let us put.
Presence.
okay,
Take that and
So,
just
yeah.
bold that
Okay.
first.
like a general town board. Is there a general town, something with
We think so.
The
administration?
town hall administration table,
I
there is.
think there usually is.
Okay.
Why don't
It
we
might be
just
like
have
the
a
town
little
pledge,
board?
you know, that kind of
Right, I
thing.
mean, you're gonna be walking around with, I
I
mean,
think other things are gonna be
that,
walls.
you're gonna cover that, I know, unfortunately that was adhered to the, yeah, but you could just put this right over it, so at least
Oh.
you're walking around with something solid,
see.
you know what I mean, you're not gonna be walking around with a rolled
So
up
where
map,
did
we
we
unroll
display
it,
this?
so.
That's
I'll
an
just take the
interesting
glass out.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't put it at the pollinator pathways table because they're
No,
gonna have
it's
their
separate.
own.
No,
So
well,
where would it go?
well, we
It's an
could-
interesting question.
again, I think we could piggyback off somebody. You
In
know?
other words, the Newcastle Healthy Yards would not have this added.
Right.
There's already so much stuff.
Yes, no, I understand what you're
So
saying.
would the garden club have this? I'm just trying to think of where would it make sense. It's a beautiful piece.
On the town
It is.
board.
You don't want it next to your pollinator pathways
No.
map.
Might become too
I
confusing,
think,
right?
yeah,
Right.
visually,
Yeah.
it would be, yeah.
There'd be confusion.
Maybe it should be at the main town table.
Yeah.
There is such
Here's
a,
the open space.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's, I think it's a nice intro and kind of covers a
Mhm.
lot, you know, not
Mhm.
just, you guys get more focus, it funnels down for obvious reasons, but this is like, I think more as the
Nice
funnel's open,
overview.
yeah,
Right.
that's,
yeah,
makes
for
sense
people to
to
see
me.
what their town looks like.
Right.
Would you be able to, Dennis, like, get back to us about if there is in fact, just to confirm, a table? And then if there's an easel, in other words, we have this, as you're saying, we could affix it onto
Right.
here, so
I have,
it's
I
backing.
can, I have, there's easels downstairs, I can give these wooden easels.
Okay,
like-
so
But like ask
Yeah.
maybe Rob Greenstein and Joe if they're
Right.
gonna do a
And
table.
we could have
Okay.
That we
the
could put a-
I will.
statement, it could be right on the easel as
Right,
well, where
right,
people
yes.
could take one to
Yeah.
see that. And it's really self-contained, so it doesn't need a person to explain.
Right.
If we're there, we can explain,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an easel and it's a
With a
handout.
handout.
Yeah.
And this is the hedgerow buffer planting will be with Healthy Yards, and so we're giving all the information, but it's really the map and the handout will introduce the conservation board. Does that make
That's
sense?
great.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that's a
now,
good idea.
so the map will be at whatever it's either at the conservation board table or at the main administration
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, a
Town
town
map.
table.
The town table.
So the buffers will be with Newcastle Healthy Yards, but the goals will be,
With this.
With this.
Attach it right here.
okay.
Yeah.
It could be, it's
So
a
people can take
self-contained.
them, and
Okay.
and that all has that logo with the Town of Newcastle Conservation Board to kind of
This thing,
introduce,
what this is.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so you want,
In fact, can I just, go ahead, Sue.
I don't even know what my question is, I'm not sure, you said to put it there.
I guess
We're
I
gonna-
was envisioning initially that sheet of goals, is it two-sided?
No.
No.
It could be literally, I guess it's too big, cause how will it be handed out? You're thinking of
Well,
having a pouch, a
so-
little pocket?
So it's going to be on, well, we don't have an easel, we have a full board.
There will be an easel.
There'll be an
Dennis says.
easel.
Alright.
And then we have that up there, and then on the easel,
Imagine.
there's usually like a lip.
Oh, we'll
And
live on
then-
the easel,
and then-
resting.
Yep,
Will
and then
that
I
work?
thought we could do
Binder
have
clip.
them clipped, right? And then people could take that
And
if they
even
want.
push pin?
We could do a push pin, sure,
Okay, so
With
we
the
can
push
resting
pin
kind
to
of
where?
over there.
into the
I think they're gonna have a
side.
backing.
Oh, yeah, we'll get that,
corner.
Yeah.
yeah, but it'll be like off the
Bigger.
bottom or something, I'm not really sure what.
Yeah, cause I don't, well,
It's 8.5
we
by
don't know if
11.
we
What
have
about
a
if you
table.
punch a hole in all of them and put them on a ring, and put it on the, like, thing of the easel, just pull one up, I don't know.
Well, ideally, we have table space, but since the horizontal space it might be taken up with other town material, I mean, ideally, right in front of the easel, we have a corner, and we just put, you know, the handouts on that.
So we just need to be thoughtful of the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
You know, how are we gonna physically attach it?
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't be windy.
You know, for all the community days that I've been to, I truthfully, I never leave the I never get anywhere. I like walk within 20 feet for hours.
Well, I thought it's just a wooden easel and,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
there's a
okay.
few,
That's great.
but my key only works for that, it didn't work downstairs,
Oh,
so.
It's okay, thank you.
Alright.
So we figured it out.
Pick that up before, cause are you going to community day, I guess that's.
I was planning on, I should say, it's funny, cause we got before Labor Day weekend, it's like, can you volunteer? And I didn't sign up for it because I botched my dates, cause Sunday's the final open gate day for T-Town's Wildflower Island. I thought it was Saturday, so I was like, oh, I can't make that, but now that I can, I didn't sign up formally, but I, you know, if I have a purpose and I could help you, I didn't have to sign up formally with the town to do that, I could just do that, so if you need me to shuttle something, that's possible.
So far, it's only the
If you could
easel.
set it up, that would be a lovely thing.
Okay,
an
I guess
easel
I have
at
to
the
find
town's
out where,
table,
yeah,
if there is-
so
Yeah.
alright, I will ask that.
And our last little mechanical question was just, if we have our beautiful goals page for the conservation board, how can we affix it that people can just take a copy with them if they wanted to? We couldn't quite get to
How about,
resting
let
on
me,
the
how about a clipboard?
clipboard.
I have one at work, I could
Put a whole
probably,
bunch like we do at the Healthy Yards table and just put it on the side.
and then the clipboard on, like with a ring maybe, so that people can just take one. There's obviously the opportunity from them to go flying, but
Right.
at
So
least they're clipped, I could bring one
That
of
would be
those.
good, and if you could then bring it to Dennis, because he's gonna be setting this up at the table at the beginning of the day. You know, I was just thinking.
Well, I'll be there, I will be there for Epic, so
Okay.
I'm gonna be around.
If
When
this
is it starting, 9?
Starts at 10.
Okay.
setup is usually like 9 to 10,
Okay.
Yeah,
So
cause they
10
close
to-
on the, you can't drive
3, I
past
think?
9:30.
right?
10 to 3?
I can't
I'm a
see
very-
it.
Oh, I'm
Fingers.
sorry, I
It's
forgot,
okay.
I think it's 10 to 3.
Okay.
But let me just
Oh,
double
yeah,
check.
10 to 3.
Ten to three?
Okay.
10 to 3.
Very practical question.
Yeah.
If this is meant to show something about the conservation board, should this say Town of Newcastle Conservation? In other words, should the words conservation board be somewhere in the header? To kind of say this is our initiative to show the space, or is that irrelevant? What do you think?
Well, we do, so back to the logo and the marketing, the same one that you had, Sue, on the this goals with that, we have.
This little guy?
Yeah, and we have it on the landscape buffer brochure as well. We have the town of Newcastle, and then we have the
Newcastle. Conservation
Oh, the
board.
logo that
Yeah.
you created, is that?
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
We could do that one, the fake.
Can we just look at that for a moment? Is that on the buffer page?
It's right on the top.
You're just talking town of
Oh, you're talking
Newcastle.
about this
And
one?
then it goes Newcastle Conservation Board, and then we just have the town of Newcastle sign.
Oh, okay, I see.
So what do we want as a logo on here then? This or the one that Lucille did, or?
I think that's fine, I'm just wondering what we could put on top of here to give some branding that this is our thing. If people think it's important, because right now, if I came up to the town's table and I saw this, I would have no idea that it has anything to do with the conservation boards, that's all I'm pointing out.
Right.
So should it say something about us on there?
Well, it has to be redone anyway, right, cause you have to update this number, right?
I'm updating this.
And that one, okay. Can I circle this?
Mhm.
Alright, so what do we want, Town of Newcastle, open space resource and pollinator pathways. So what, Town of Newcastle, we could just put it up here, conservation.
these are as minor as it gets, the
Right.
dialogue.
Oh, yeah,
is-
Right.
but I'm just saying, do we wanna put that over here?
Yeah,
Over here, we could also explain what it is, like where's one of our goals, your, one of these better goals, easier. How about
She's got an idea.
oh my god, it's like Santa's
plopping it
workshop.
right on here, okay?
But it's their space.
But no, yeah, but it doesn't have to be all of these things.
Right,
Oh, to reduce a little bit
A
of the
sub-page,
text,
like a
so that it
big
fits.
page.
We
Yeah.
put Conservation Board, Town of Newcastle, we just changed the header on that.
Right.
Not an extra line, so that there's space for
It's
reduced
a-
text to go right there.
Yeah, that's good. That could work.
And then we don't have to worry about clipping together things with a separate. It's something,
We could just almost a bullet point, like, you could just do bullet one, you know, you could say, protect and maintain the town's environment, our goals are, you know, protect and maintain the town's environmentally sensitive areas and natural resources. Bullet two, you know, just a bullet, promote plant, animal biodiversity through the restoration,
So
da
just the
da
first
da da.
sentence of each.
Yeah, basically, right?
But I like that also, the mission, I kind of
Well,
like
the
this.
mission, yeah, but the mission statement, honestly, for something like this, studies and advises the town board and other department boards and commissions on developing I mean, I guess that is good, the current goals
people to
don't
know.
mean anything. I mean, not included, goals are not included, you know, but
So do we wanna do both and just put some of it up here and then still have the standalone, which has more information?
Some of it could be on that
Yeah, I
side
think-
too. We could have the names of the
Yeah, yeah.
members over there, you know, we
Why
could
don't
have,
you put the time, when did it, I forget when this started, was it, when in the 70s?
during that whole open space era.
Because shouldn't we just say something like, since 1970,
Founded in nineteen
whatever,
something something.
we've been concerned with open space, you know,
Mm.
and maybe just put that there and have that separate. In other words, nobody knows how long, you know, Newcastle's been really concerned about this, and now with climate change, obviously, it's becoming more and more important to make sure there's enough breathability in our town, so to speak.
I mean, we could,
So, I don't know.
I think we could do it all. We don't need to have our names like emblazoned, we could have like a little
Or
square
just
box
something,
here.
all I was
Like-
thinking is we take chunks of this on different
Yes,
parts of the
yeah, I
table.
agree,
That was the
I
intention,
agree.
okay.
And this could be even be a little smaller, like, and you could put, like, we could put the board members here,
And our
and
link
Dennis,
to the website.
and the link to the
Just for
website.
transparency, so people know.
Yeah, but I
what
think
we're
that
doing.
instead of having loose paper, since we're gonna do this
And it's
anyway.
better for the environment to have it all, so people
And
know.
also people, what do? They take this and they bring it home and read it and then they
I know, people
right?
just
So
pick
I
up the paper
I
and-
think
Put it on the
Yeah, and then they see.
the buffer thing is important because that has the list of plants and you might wanna refer to that, but I think that we could design this,
Yeah, 'cause I'm trying to figure out where.
so that we could get everything
Find out
on
when
here.
open space started.
Right, so how about we can do the conservation board members down here,
Okay.
right?
We could ask, Steve.
Or Newcastle Conservation Board members. And then we could list us here, and then you, of course. And I don't know, you wanna put, you know, we could, and then we should call you what you are. You know, Dennis,
That's a loaded question.
no, you know, Dennis, you know, town environmental,
Environmental coordinator, so
Right.
so they have his phone number also, that they can reach out.
with your contact info,
Okay.
right? So that's sort of like this here, and then our webpage is, do you guys, we could write that over here too. You know, it's like www.mynewcastle. And then it's like town board, whatever, you know, I can't remember how they write that out, but we could get that, the rest of it.
That links to your conservation board in other words.
That,
That's
it,
the way-
it will link to our page
Yeah.
on the town's webpage. I mean, not that there's that much there right now, but
Yeah, no, I
eventually,
understand.
right?
page.
So we'll have, this is sort of like brought to you by, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then,
What is
Right.
your friendly
Brought to
neighborhood
you by.
spirit?
brought to you by,
brought to you
right, brought to you by, and then, so, Town of Newcastle. Very bad, I hate mine, conservation. Are we board or committee or whatever?
Board.
Board, right? And this is good, right, open space resources
Mhm.
and pollinator pathways, do we like that?
Yeah.
That's in essence what was highlighted in.
No, I know, but that's, we wanna call that that, right? So then on here, we could just say, well, I like what you said, since,
I think it was in the 70s.
Founded in 19.
Well, since whenever it was,
I
the
know.
first,
I know, but should we say like since the 1970s?
yeah, since the 1970s, we've been
Or do we-
concerned with,
Or we could, do you think we should have the actual date, or does it matter?
I think we should have the date of
Is
the
there,
plan.
is there an intro like that, in other words?
Somewhere else.
Is that what you're drawing from?
Yes.
I'm drawing from, I know that Steve talked about when all of this started, which is
The
in the 70s.
document that has
And
that.
I think
Yeah.
it was related to the case that was lost that started the first large-scale condominium development here. I think it was almost a reaction to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But were the
kind of-
condos in the 80s, so that came later?
The
So-
case was in the seventies though, I think, in the late '70s. I could be wrong. But then they
The
were developed.
multifamily use.
Yeah, I forget, I should know the name of the
So,
case, I can't remember.
I like the way you
I
describe it though,
remember either.
since 1970,
Yeah.
the Conservation Board,
In fact, actually,
Has
we were
been.
developed, the Conservation Board came into existence, so it's really the town of Newcastle has been focused on
But it could
preserving
be
open
a
space.
founded in, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we should know, I know
Conservation
Steve.
Board,
Isn't
blah,
that
blah, blah, does
arboretum
this.
book that, the Glazier
Missing it.
arboretum, that,
I know it's somewhere, it was
is
in the
here?
laws, it was something that we looked at when the town
One of
first.
those documents that he shared with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should go back, I should know that
Well,
case,
Sue
it's
was
gonna
looking
drive
through
me
her
crazy.
wonderful note, you know, she's keeping the records of
Trying
that.
to,
I
yeah.
was
then we can
leaving
just,
zero
it still
chance
gets,
that I'd
without,
find
you don't
it.
have to say the word mission statement. You know, just say, town board is part of the town of Newcastle, studies and advises the town board and other town department and board and commissions on developing sound open space.
I do like this header though, it's very attractive in the upper
believe I can't
left
So
Yeah,
maybe
it's
corner.
If he can do
matches
that.
A, that's all.
Yeah,
So I know
yes,
for
yeah,
myself, I'm
right.
sorry.
I think it was
Then,
Old
we
Farm
could
Lake
just
was the
say,
one.
Goals include, maybe?
Berenson, that's it.
Then we can go protect and maintain, so this could be B,
Mhm,
C,
mhm,
just this first one,
yep,
D,
mhm,
E,
mhm.
this way.
Good.
And I guess,
Specific to anything.
Yeah, they'll fit
right there,
in
right
there,
there.
yep,
Yeah, they, and, cause when you type it on here,
yeah,
Kaylin does this, right?
Yep.
It was in
Yep.
the '70s.
And that's
Berenson,
probably-
Town of Newcastle.
That's enough.
okay,
And then the board members can be, what do we got, to G? Okay?
yep,
And then everything's on one thing, we don't have loose paper. I think that solves the problem.
Consolidates
that's good.
everything,
Also preserving paper.
Preserving paper,
right,
too.
it's environmentally friendly.
Yeah, also, you know, again, if people are really interested, they could take a picture of it, you know?
Exactly, that's what a lot of people do with
Yeah.
that, just to be able to take a photo of that if they're interested, refer back to it.
Okay, so that solves a lot of, the only thing we need to know is like what to say up there, since 19, blah.
Yeah, I've gotta, maybe we can ask Steve.
Is it on the,
First thing
did
in
we
the
search it
morning.
at all?
So the
just now on the
Conservation
town's
Board
page?
has a founded date or year.
Okay, when is
Yeah,
it?
and if not,
1975.
and if not, and,
Where'd you
oh,
get that?
It was in the,
I
no,
know
it
it's in
was,
something.
it was in, I have copies somewhere in here of the law that was
Yes.
put through, and it was nineteen
Okay.
seventy-five.
Oh,
That's
Sue,
it.
you're
Thanks, Sue.
our archivist.
Perfect.
Founded in 1975, the Conservation Board,
Moment, I can't
as
find
part of the town of Newcastle, studies. What do we do with that? Oh,
The
the,
language.
I mean, we're really ahead of our time, actually.
yeah.
I mean, when you think about it.
Studies and advises the town board and other town departments, boards and commissions on developing sound open space planning and ensuring preservation of natural and scenic resources within the town of Newcastle.
Yeah,
And then all the goals, boom, 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 boom.
Great.
Then we've got our board members and, you know, like info down there.
Yeah, it was in that law
And
that
then-
it said that the Conservation Board has management
And
over
it's,
Glacier.
we don't have to make
Yes,
more
that's-
copies of
Yeah, no,
anything,
no,
and the
they
buffer
did
thing
that
people
in-
should have anyway, so that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Right, right.
And even if we have extra copies of it, nobody takes them at the end of, like, if people don't take all of them,
Right.
there's other uses for them, like we could,
Do we know, just to be clear, where we're going to be getting the buffer, the double-sided, you're gonna send us the soft copy so we can print it?
no, we're gonna send him the soft copy so he could print it.
I'll print them out.
He has it,
Who has the
I
soft
gave him
copy?
that, yeah.
I have
So
the-
he's
But
got
we
it.
has
have,
the
we
hard
have the soft
copy.
copy though.
Of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
We,
So we just need to print it out so we have it for the Healthy Yards table.
I've
Also-
got a bunch here.
no,
You have enough?
but Dennis is gonna print
Well,
two
then you're
hundred
at-
of them.
Yeah, you asked for
Okay,
200,
great.
right?
Oh, great,
those.
excellent.
I just,
You'll
yeah,
bring
I
that
just,
on
my only note
Saturday.
to myself is to find the
Electronic
electronic
version.
version for clean
Yes.
two-sided copies, and you said that this is in,
On our
No, I don't have
webpage,
copies
we
of it.
think,
I don't have a
but
lot
we
of
will,
copies of
we
it.
have that somewhere.
Yeah.
okay,
Cause we did,
Well,
the,
I
this,
do, I don't know where it is.
the town already did that,
yeah,
because they printed them and put them in every single person's,
Right, so
They
they
did
have
the
to.
mailing with the
Oh, and
water
this water thing or
report.
whatever.
Yes.
we got, yeah.
so I think this is an awesome solution to have everything on there, and we don't have to worry about
It's self,
typing and,
and we got it all on one page, one map, great.
Yeah, beautiful.
And
solved.
ask if you wouldn't mind Callan to use his design.
In terms of font.
No, whatever, just to make it fit and
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it
no,
all
no,
look
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like for Saturday.
And it's good to take up white space, so I think it'd be
It
fine
might be
with that.
possible to make this a teeny bit smaller.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, you don't need it that big.
And even if, well, there's any, make this any bigger because of the width, but
Right.
at least to make this smaller, maybe move this
Yeah.
down a teeny bit and make it a
Yeah.
little
Oh,
more.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, cause this doesn't have to
It's
be.
gonna be cloudy, which
Okay.
is better than rainy.
I went one year when do you remember that? It was like 10 years ago. It was pouring down rain. Such a fun, day, and it was just,
Oh, that's a bummer.
and it was a year that it was almost like every weekend was raining. It was before they had the farmers market even, and I remember walking around with my kids and they had like a little sad like merry-go-round thing, like one of those things with like two little horses or whatever, and it was like it was like
Rain is Are they going to have, what are they gonna have this year?
Well, they don't have the, last year, I don't think they did the kind of arcade game type of thing. I think they just had with the tables and that, they try to do something for the kids, but, I don't think last year they had that.
No bouncy.
Like sometimes they have a bouncy thing or something.
Right.
I think they had a blood drive last year.
I think they're having one this year.
Yeah.
I think so.
I gotta
think
get out
that's
from
good.
behind the table more often, yeah, I didn't.
I know, like, get trapped behind the table, it's
Yeah.
able to.
Okay, so good, and that, since we don't have a
Okay.
table here, I will be there in the morning and you guys will all be there for a thing, but I can do the epic one without worrying about it.
Where are the tables? Do you know where any tables
No,
are?
that's really top secret until the day of.
Oh.
So you pull up with your car, with your tent and table and that, and then you're given an assigned space.
Oh, we have to bring a table too?
You should bring your
Oh
own
yeah,
table.
you get,
Oh.
you
I
just
thought
have
they
the
provided
space.
the tables.
Oh,
Oh.
no, you bring everything,
Okay,
shared
so
table,
that's another
everything.
reason I'm glad we don't have to do this then,
Yeah.
okay.
So I
You're
wonder if
assigned
Barbara
to
gave her
space.
table to the DAR too, cause she
Oh,
brought a
that's a good
table
question.
last time, okay.
I mean, we definitely have the healthy arts table, but do we have, so we may need,
I-
well, that's
well,
what
she
Mohammed
gave her
Pathways
tent away
right,
to the DAR, so but if she didn't give her table away, we could use that.
okay, right, true.
Okay.
We're trying to get this pollinator pathways table, even though we're not gonna have a conservation board table.
Oh, yeah, that's good, yeah. So, let's go back to your agenda.
Okay, no.
Okay, review community day map, yay, done.
Okay,
First look at streetscape list.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
so
wow.
I know Missy is
Missy had
not
a-
here
yeah.
and
She had comments.
she did and we knew that there would be comments because I'm surprised actually that so many of these are
Yeah.
native.
Non-native?
No,
Yeah.
are native, I'm actually happy to
Oh,
say,
you're happy.
because, so,
Missy's problem was with one of the
I was with the
ma-
head, I think the maple, yeah.
maple, one of the maples.
So I happened to be driving one day,
Mhm.
when they were preparing the surface, just the, dirt surface underneath the sidewalk. And they had this machine and it was like a sledgehammer, but instead it's, something that like is flat and you're just pounding and pounding, and I get it, because you have to then pour concrete, you need to make a level sidewalk, that all makes sense to me. That is not what you do
To plant a
when
tree.
you're gonna plant the tree. I have to, and we'll talk about it later, I'm gonna release the RFP tomorrow to plant the 50 trees that are coming for Glazier. And when I wrote the RFP, but I wrote it as like specs, cause I'm like, this is how I want the guys to do this, and you kinda do it in like these 6-inch lifts as you're backfilling after you plant the tree, and then at those 6 inches, you kinda do a foot tamping to like, get rid of spacing. You're not using any machine to pound it and like compress it,
more
and then
delicate.
after you foot tamp it, you saturate that with water before you do the next
Right.
6 inches. So that's what a tree wants. So to find trees, and believe it or not, Steve was nice enough to ask me, he says, could I just bounce something off you one day when he was here? I said, sure. And we were discussing some of these trees and, in addition to coming up with something that will grow, then there's do you think that's a good species over there? Those flowers are a little malodorous, for lack of a better description. He goes, yeah, I know what you mean, maybe we shouldn't, and this store owner will. So like, there's all, and
Those
then,
kind of con-
right, and then who's gonna wrap lights around them, for the holidays for how many months, so. I'm amazed that there's so many trees that actually make it to significant size in sidewalks, and even when you consider what they go through, I mean, I happened to notice, it came to mind, so I've been driving my daughter and her friends a lot, you know, to the Westchester and to the movies and whatever in White Plains, and like when you're sitting there at the light on the corner of, I believe it's Main Street and, is it Main Street? It might be Main Street and Broadway, they have now this, all the pin oaks, they're covered in, I mean, it's not quite pavement, it's black though, but it's not a planting pit anymore, it's like, it's all hardscape, and I'm looking at this tree and I'm like, so how do you do this? You know what I mean? It's like, how are you surviving in this? You know, I mean, maybe there's, you know, it's not true blacktop, it could be, you know, I'm not familiar with every product that covers as a pervious, looks to be, you know, hardscape or looks to be pavement, but actually has, but it's just amazing to me. So that, you know, that and what's available, and so that's kind of what really dictates this list. It's not, you know, it's not an ecological restoration project, you know, far from it. So that's kind of how you come to these decisions.
Is there a percentage then of the native versus non-native that?
The only one Missy had a problem with
Not
was,
quite,
I'm sorry,
I guess at
was
the end of the day.
the
was-
hedge
yes,
maple,
Right,
of which there are 4 of them.
yeah, and I did read that they, you know, it's one of those things that they can be, like it's not, I don't think they're as aggressive as some other species from what I read, so.
But there's such
Where are they going to
wonderful
go?
sugar red maple hybrids now that are really beautiful. I just wonder, do you know where they're gonna be placed? The maple trees? Or
That I
any of these for
didn't,
that matter?
that I only saw it once, I don't have a copy of that, I frankly don't have that,
Because that would be
so.
interesting to understand, like, just what the rationale was for the
Yeah, I mean, the
space.
only one that I could tell you is the Douglas fir is gonna kind of go with that triangle there, as you kind of can go up to Quaker Road, because they were thinking about that center triangle like as a potential Christmas tree, so that's the only one that I recall off the top of my head. We're debating Norway spruce or Douglas fir.
That would be very nice. So are they removing something from the triangle to put that in? If it's,
I'm trying to think, there
are trees
is there
there,
a Norway maple there?
but there's something, you know, I can't think off the top of my head if there is one. But you mean the triangle with the little sign, the
Yeah,
chapel,
if you
yeah.
go out and make a left to go
Right.
towards the
Right
duck
there,
pond,
I'm
up
not
sure.
Quaker Road,
We
yeah,
won't
that one.
go by that all the time.
And get on the sawmill.
I always
So-
think lindens
Can't
is
remember what's
not,
there.
it's not such beneficial, you know, there's so many lindens going in, I wonder why that
Maybe they just survive well.
is, yeah.
I
It's
mean,
such
you know, it's funny, cause some of these trees I do recognize from, you know, when I did work in my former life, when I had to check a certain percentage of trees that were planted for greening the Bronx, and, you know, some of these were there for that, but a lot of them were definitely, you know, I was telling Jill, you know, I had to like print pictures of these things before I went, because I had no idea, you know, what's this Japanese whatever, what's this Chinese whatever, it's like,
Nothing
you know,
Japanese or Chinese, that's
right,
for
I
them.
don't, you know, we don't encounter these things in the woods, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, I had to like figure out, oh, so this is what.
So the question is, I guess, is there any opportunity to replace the hedge maple with something else? Or is it,
I would
there's
think at this
absolutely no
time-
way?
No, because I think that had to be generated for a meeting, and then
Right.
I guess those that were doing it were, so I was just sharing it because I know it came up and you were curious
Right.
as to
Steve
what.
had talked about the street tree list.
Plan, right.
With, and the list was generated also with Cornell, they have done a lot of research
Oh.
with how to plant the street trees with that. So I think that was where some of the types had originated with that. Then there are certain locations that were more flexible and some that are really limited, given to whatever is going on below ground. So we're flexible and there's more soil, things like the red bud in that, which not necessarily on every town street list. But in some that you really need, like your ace in the hole, that really can grow in
So-
limited.
So this is like a 2-inch diameter?
When they buy them.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, the
they
caliper.
measure it, I think, near the base of the tree, the caliper, yeah.
So how high are these things gonna be?
When they come,
Small.
evergreens
Pretty
are
small.
usually at that, they're measured in height, so they're, you know, there's like 8 to 10 feet, could be 10 to 12 feet. I guess when you get a 2.5-inch tree, you're probably I thought it'd be about like in that 6 to 8 range, I'm in there,
They'll be little.
yeah. I mean, and that's also to help, you know, it's funny
You
too.
can't plant them if they're like.
You don't want it too big, like
50
Steve
foot
and I have
trees.
talked about this, cause sometimes even for projects, you know, cause obviously if someone wants to replace trees on their property, they want an instant tree, and it's like, you can do that, but the survivability percentage goes down, cause
And it's gonna take a
it's
few
just-
years till it starts to grow.
Right,
And
right,
a
right.
container grows faster
So-
than a root ball.
you try to find that, everything's like a compromise, and I
Yeah,
think we
yeah,
need
Who's
to-
going
It's
to
okay.
like
It's
fertilize,
frustrating.
or how's it gonna work, or the proper, who's gonna like take care of the trees? Was there a
Well, I
plan for
guess,
that?
you know, I'm speaking outside of my purview here, I'm sure, you know, Bob knows this answer better than me, but I know that, you know, from other jobs I've done prior to coming here, that there is a contractor period of sort of responsibility and maintenance for a tree after it's planted, not for 10 years, but I would say a minimum of at least like 6 months to a year, I would,
You mean,
you know, gotta
people that installed them?
yeah, would fill the
Yeah.
water bags, I would assume that, you know, they would have something like that, you know, or if they're gonna have, you know, parks run around and do the watering, I don't know, but that has to happen.
Right, so
Yeah.
actually that brings up a really good point, that one of the, so these are going to be in the sidewalks, these are street trees. For some of the trees that are planted around the parking lot, there is not an area, there fortunately is no volcano of mulch, but when they weed whack, there's no protection at the base of the trees, especially in the planted areas between the different parking lots and along the bridge, where the bayberry are and where the wormwood is, the artemisia is, along with the bayberry. But you know, if there's something that even is unattractive but still, you know,
Protective. Like a, what do they call them, like a
Tree
collar?
guards. Yeah,
A collar.
there's a few different types, yeah.
and even, you know, you can have these, they're black, plastic, but
Yeah.
it still is something that, is, to just prevent the constant, injury
Right,
that can, shorten the life of that. Not,
that's, yeah, that's
not
one
with the
thing.
street
we
trees,
find
but
out
some of
about?
our ones that are planted, have been showing some damage at the base with that.
Right, yeah, no, they all get wounded like that.
So how do we deal with that? Do we bring it up to somebody, or?
I could ask Steve, I have a call into him anyway for something else, so I'll ask him,
So I have another question
guards.
that's kind of out there, but I kind of noticed all these things coming back. Right by the high school now, where they have that island, who takes care of like the dead grass that's, I mean, it's like a mess, it just looks awful. Are we supposed to be concerned about that as the conservation board?
I believe that since that was planted as part of Summit Greenfield,
It's horrible.
they have contracted with someone who has either a 2-year or a 3-year, to replace, trees that die and shrubs that die. So,
There
that's,
aren't, but this is just grass, it's supposed to be just grass. There are
In the
no
median?
trees, yeah.
I
And
thought,
it's
so
all
the
dead.
median has a lot of plantings.
Yeah, not
And then
that
they have
part.
a grassy area.
No,
You're talking
I'm
about the one
talking
that's
about the one that's
between the high school, and the Sawmill
Correct,
Parkway.
that one.
versus
That's
the
a
one-
mess.
It just has, there's nothing there.
It's like dead grass.
Yeah.
It's horrible looking. I mean, they shouldn't, they should put whatever
No,
they're
they
doing,
should put
they're
like
not,
meadowy, small.
yeah, they have to do something. I mean, who,
Wait, and
Grasses.
this is a median between two lanes of
It's
traffic?
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's from the high school entrance
Oh, I got you.
toward the
I
Sawmill
got you.
Parkway
Yeah.
versus the high school and the
I mean, right.
whatever
That
the
part
other
is
way,
okay.
the 176.
Section going
It's
down.
that one.
They're
It's like
not- They're not
Put it in
taking
a new
care of that
median.
at all. And it's like, it looks like a place that people can just throw whatever, right, I mean, it looks awful. I mean, how do we deal with that? I mean, do we talk to Summit Greenfield?
I
Are
think
we
that's them.
supposed to be taking care of it as the town because it's on the town road? I don't know.
Just to get clarification on it,
Yeah.
and figure out who now.
Who would we ask
take
Dennis
action.
about that?
Find the high school, I could show
Yeah.
you. So
beautification up there.
Where's the Sawmill Parkway? This is the parkway here?
Right, yeah,
So it's coming out of the high school,
okay,
here's Chapel Crossing.
right, I came out of there this afternoon.
It's here, oh, it's this part, down, right here,
Yeah,
this part. Right here.
interesting, okay,
This way, there's a median also,
right,
but that one has like little shrubby things
Right.
mostly.
Yeah, it's got a bunch
This
of
way, it's just like a little grassy median.
okay, let me at least just look at it
Yeah.
in like the database to see who owns what land and who's and then I guess,
stuff. Because if
That's
we
the
own
first
it, then we
question.
should put native, we should put something that can survive.
This
So
open
that
land,
makes
we're
like,
gonna
you know,
cover
people
coloring
trash the
on
area
this one
because
too,
they're
like we
gonna
did
trash
with
it, so
on
really
the
trash it
pollinator
looking.
map, right?
purpose, you know.
Yeah,
These
Yeah.
big open spaces,
I was shocked when I saw it,
like,
because it looked like my town.
well, one of them isn't that Glazier right there?
no Glazier's
Oh,
here.
right there, okay, then,
But weren't they some of these big ones open, weren't some of these big ones
some of them were labeled,
on the other one?
yeah,
What are you
Well,
talking
that's
about?
Chapel, maybe they're commercial? Oh, yeah, that's what I was looking for.
yeah, some
Like-
of them were labeled in terms of,
Okay, so
like,
Whippoorwill is
parks.
already there, okay, they're already
Yeah.
in there, okay, never
Yeah.
mind,
Okay.
ignore, yeah.
Yeah, not everything, yeah,
Yep.
I know what you're saying, okay.
I mean, I think Summit Greenfield has a lot of problems, I the gas major problems at Chappaqua Crossing. Gas problems.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to wash my
Power
dog there and
problems.
they didn't have
Yeah.
hot water, yeah.
Yeah, they haven't had
That's
it for
right.
months.
That's right, lovely, right?
Yep. They had to shut it all down because of a gas leak.
Okay.
Is there a way, and I'm sure you probably are thinking about this, Dennis, but when you think about the list that you just shared with us for the streetscape, for future, whenever there will be plantings, to weave us in sooner than later so that we can be part of the idea generation
As
process
far as
for what's
trees or
gonna
as
be
far as
planted.
other,
Well, yeah,
all
for
plantings,
trees
you're
and,
saying.
like, I'm just thinking of how to get us involved in a rote kind of way earlier on, so that it becomes more of that we're partners in the brainstorm, as opposed to looking back and trying to edit things out later. Just to feel we can serve the town in that way, if possible,
okay,
if that feels comfortable for you.
yeah, no,
Well,
I know what you're saying.
what I would really love at some point, I'm just gonna put out there, cause it's, early this, but the entrances to our town are, we've all seen the map of our town, and it's a challenge in terms of, we have multiple entry and exit points with
Yeah.
that, but they're not really even loosely landscaped in a sense of that, and we could have not a standardized look, but we could
Like a branded welcome.
Yeah.
kind of.
we could do
Yeah.
that, and we could make it with a pollinator friendly,
We
And-
are a pollinator path,
and,
or something.
and when you come in, that, so one, it's aesthetic, the invasives are removed, aesthetically pleasing and pollinator friendly.
Yeah.
And not that it's gonna be matchy, but it can be coordinated,
Right.
so that
So the one
it's-
off the Sawmill here, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, by the
we
statute.
also have at 100, we have 100 at 133,
Where like Millwood, like the
Chico's.
Chico's area, yeah,
We
that would be
have-
great.
100 at 120 by the that extension to Route 120. So technically speaking,
Oh, right, where the
Newcastle goes all the way to Shingle House
Shingle
Road.
House, right, that's right.
So if we get real ambitious, we could do Shingle
Yeah.
House Road and at the intersection
Right.
of 120
Yeah, that's
and
good.
Route 100.
We should write these down because,
And at the sawmill, the two exit points, and right at the town, and then again at Roaring Brook. The idea that, we can reach out with,
yeah,
I think the realtors are very reasonable to do fundraising with something, this is how we are selling our town
Right, they
Yeah.
would love to be able to do that, that's great. I mean, it may even be the sign that is matched with the foliage, with plants.
Right.
And then everyone, suddenly you feel like you're in the arms of Newcastle, we welcome you with these,
And also specifically, you asked about the triangles with the garden club with that what we're talking about is making it easier for the town, who does the maintenance on that, to be planting around the perimeter of the vulnerable islands, so that they reduce the amount of weeding, so this is something, and with a plant list that is then consistent with that, because it's a challenge, we just have such a seed bank of
Right, bad.
invasives.
Oh, I can't stand those
It's not just weeds,
stupid-
it's a seed bank of
Right.
invasives that
Tree of heaven, it drives me crazy to see those off the highway.
it's really becoming the point of
Tipping point.
yeah.
I know we haven't I don't wanna derail us, but I mean, really the knotweed is so much more visible this year.
I know.
I mean, it almost feels like we should have some knotweed strategy. Again, maybe a conversation for another day, but it's flowering now. I mean, I know it doesn't, it spreads by, you know, many different routes of spreading, but we're not doing anything to intervene.
Right. So
Strictly.
actually, there is at the Botanical Garden on, I think it's November 15th, there's from the Invasives Project. Carrie Sears is presenting from Howard Ridge, along with Doug Tellamy. And there's another speaker as well, but it is specifically on invasive plants and then how, of course, one is remove invasives, plant native, so, but there are towns that are implementing an invasive management program. They're trying to get something on the books, which is even for people where it's, even for towns where it's further away, because even away, you're still having a few of these.
Sure.
And then what's happening is we're so close to kind of where, I don't wanna say people have given up, but where there's discussion of retreat type of thing. But it's moving at such a pace, so I know, you know, in Connecticut, they're talking about that, and from my eye,
Just giving up.
it's much less of a problem, but they're feeling, you know, that they need to have something to begin the process of that, with putting something on, even from like a liability standpoint of that, with it.
I know they're very concerned on Cape Cod about knotweed, so I don't know what's, they've
And
got
it's
a big
important
focus on
that
that.
not every invasive is going to be on that list of what is removed, right? But the ones that are really dangerous to infrastructure too.
Word that comes to mind, right?
So you said it's at the Bronx Botanical?
So this program is November 15th at the
Yeah.
the New York Botanical, so I'm sorry about that, but
No, it's
you know, I thought about that, and I honestly was surprised, but I think in many ways, with Pioneer Pathway like Norwalk, they're kind of leading the pack with that, and pushing on a townwide management program, which are in the very early stages of
Friday.
that.
That's a Friday, November 15th.
Yeah,
I was just looking.
it's a Friday, I don't know what time,
yeah.
but.
Did you send it out? I think I saw it, but
Yeah, so I hope that it's gonna appear right on my calendar with that, because I think it is November 15th. And you have to buy the ticket for it at Ross Auditorium. I think it's $10, if you remember for that. But,
okay,
so-
so we have a plan on that. Now what?
You may, yes, these are the 3 pages that Jill shared with me when I asked about the Holocaust
Oh,
Memorial
good,
Garden.
so they actually have some.
Well, I think it was just, you know, she said it's like artistic rendering, it's a weeping cherry, and they were thinking of planting daffodils, but you could look at this if you would like, and this is the location, and that was all they had, so I copied it and decided to bring it, and you could take a look, it's off South Greeley, and this is the spot there, so. That's it, this was all that was in the file,
Who is
she said it
organizing
wasn't
this?
much.
Like who's leading up?
I
Gazebo.
I don't know, I forgot even who she said designed this, it was you know, like at a class room level type of, I think it was like a professional firm or something to that effect.
But it's right near the gazebo somewhere?
I thought that's what they said.
Yeah,
They said it was gonna
that's
be.
kind of where they're putting it.
Oh, yeah,
It looks like a
actually, where is it,
gazebo.
'cause I know I've become enamored with that space, having
Right.
gone to all those memorials. And there's a lot of, there are some native plants there, it's right along the stream. Is that where they're gonna put this?
It's hard to tell by
Yeah,
this,
it's
but
hard
do you
to-
recognize this picture?
So is this, hold on one moment, so is that the middle where there's all these plants right now? Oh, this is it? This is the actual picture?
I believe so.
So maybe is the gazebo here? So the water, I think, is right in here.
Yeah, that's the backdrop.
So they're gonna, the water will be there, are they gonna put, so this is actually, from my perspective, very important place for native plants to be, because you have a natural stream right there, and it lends itself to very, organically speaking, like some beautiful, very natural looking, naturalizing native plants. I mean, the weeping cherry, of course, is not a native plant, but if they
Nor is
could,
daffodils.
right, if they could, we could help them kind of think about what would be in here. And there's a lot of wildlife here. So I just spent like 20 minutes there, many birds, rabbits hopping. I mean, this is a habitat. So if they're gonna install plants as part of this project, I would like us to think of it as habitat. In addition to people, for the wildlife that's actually living there.
Right, so I think that what they're doing is, the daffodils are specifically part of a project that they count the number of daffodils that are planted for the number of children. And I believe they chose a weeping cherry, for the name, weeping. So I think that those two pieces are
Locked in.
symbolic and set in with that. I think that there was a conversation with Missy about how we can advise so that the foliage is a do not mow zone and it doesn't get mowed down so that they will continue to naturalize and spread and the bulbs do not die out with that. I think that this is good if there's an attention to maintaining this so that it doesn't become overrun. There are the mulberry, there are invasives everywhere, but along the stream, this is a vulnerable area which is prone to invasives that needs to be monitored or to be watched, and I'm not sure what the follow-up. There's a lot of planting and then it's a continuing process of that. I'm not sure how this is set up with it. So that was as far as we got with it, in terms of just to have an underplanting so that the daffodil planting will be protected.
There were, interwoven with the invasives, a number of native plants there,
Yes.
which was
Well,
interesting.
it was once planted and it was a stream side planting.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah, and then it was overrun with invasives, then the gazebo was moved there. And when the gazebo was moved there, it was pushed up, it was relocated, right? Remember the old gazebo was further back? They changed the footing of the gazebo.
I kind of remember that, yeah.
Yeah, when it had to be taken down and then rebuilt, it was a
Just
different
speaks to-
location, yeah.
And just how important the maintenance piece is, someone who knows what they're doing and how to maintain and
So
support.
who's planting it?
Volunteer, I believe this was a donation. A landscape company did offer to do this. The daffodils are purchased at a low cost through a specific organization that
I
then
remember
keeps
reading,
track of the
okay.
number.
Alright, yeah, okay.
The children represented are connected to our town somehow?
The children were those who were lost during the Holocaust.
Overall, or connected to Newcastle?
No, this is,
So it's a general Holocaust memorial as
Yes.
opposed to Newcastle
Yeah.
specific?
I believe they just, I think that it's,
That's
I
a
wanna
lot of
say
bulbs. I mean,
500,000,
so many children
because that's the
were
number that's in
killed.
my head. So their goal of this organization is to have 500,000 daffodils
In
planted.
this spot?
Oh,
No,
no,
in
this
the-
is all over.
All over, so we'll have a piece of that.
We have a
all
piece
over
of
the
that.
It's a
country?
joint project or a
over
collaborative.
I don't know if it goes beyond the US,
I see.
I'm not
I
quite
got it.
sure about that, but I know that this organization was set up with that. And
I
then
see.
the
Thank you for
two
explaining
local Newcastle residents asked for a location where they could have that.
Okay, I see, thank you.
And there's plenty of, we can add to the diversity there with that, even though daffodils are, and, weeping cherry, poor things, I mean, the blooms last a second.
Like I always think in terms of,
Those
One
the
wind
ones
or
that are
rain
by
event and
Talbot.
the poor
No, no, no.
things are all on the ground, I
Those,
mean,
are there weeping cherries by Talbots, is that what they are, that they flower for like a day?
those are Bradford pear, I
Oh,
think.
okay, I have no idea.
The white, I think
Yeah.
they're Bradford
Yeah,
pear.
if you smell them, you'll know the difference between weeping cherry and those calorie pears, yeah.
like I guess I'm
Okay.
so sensitive to, if there is thicket here that their animals are using and the birds are living in, I always feel strongly that even if they're invasive, that the invasive should immediately be replaced, so those animals continue to have a place to live. So that's when I think about any project that is suddenly gonna take out some of the, it may look not good to us as people, but those creatures see it as where they've been living for years.
Well-
So I don't wanna displace them.
Well, I think that the most important thing solves your problem, but it's looked at from a different way. Because what they were talking about in Norwalk is any soil disturbance, immediately to plant. And
Yes.
to choose your plants so carefully.
Aggressive natives.
It is, because, and it literally is, because you have to be able to have something
That can
that is going to,
compete.
that is going to be easily, so you can identify your invasives and coming back. Because then you have to have your volunteers repeatedly going to the site to pull up any fragment, any
Anything new that
piece.
comes up.
Because otherwise, you never get a handle on that, especially by the rivers and the streams. It's
Yeah.
just like
Okay, so this is what it looks like now?
I don't know why it's
a
on top of
magnet
bankers,
for
yeah.
every invasive that wants to get a
Right.
foothold. And they
Yeah.
travel by water. I
Yeah.
mean, I hate to be so alarmist, but it's like by air, by water, it's just
Right.
an
No,
assault.
you're right.
What, how this,
Are you Dennis? Yeah,
just
go
let's back up onto that project that's being reviewed by the gas station.
It's on the other side of the stream,
I
yeah,
think the
and I
gas
think that might be
station
on
is
hold.
Well, the gas station, yeah,
believe.
I don't think it's, I think I said last
Parking
meeting,
lot.
right, they feel it's dead, that project.
Is it your feeling that you, in your role, can have that conversation? In other words, to tune people in? Are you at the table with anything around this to have a conversation
No,
about habitat?
I had to ask Jill, and she's like, I believe it's in a file, and it was a small file, and I just copied sort of the contents, the visuals, with respect to, and I didn't find any information. There was Jill who said, yeah, I believe it's a weeping cherry and daffodils, even before I pulled it out. And, I had no indication,
Would
and
they
that's why I
ever,
wrote it
I mean,
down.
let's think about the environmental review board kind of posture. So when someone's thinking about doing something, someone comes and presents what they wanna do to the environmental review board. Would it be appropriate to invite the folks working on this to say, can you share with us your thoughts? And we might be able to, we love what you're doing, and can we give you some suggestions around
mean,
habitat and not
Yeah,
native plants?
regulatorily, I think only if it falls under requiring a permit, and even when you look in the wetlands regs, you're allowed to plant stuff, People run into issues whereby, if you wanna put in sod and now you start disturbing all, this, footage, and you got, erosive surfaces before you can get the sod to arrive, and then it rains, and then the neighbor complains, why is there all this mud in my driveway? And it's like, you're right, there shouldn't be, but in terms of something at this level, it's not gonna trigger any permits, that I could think of.
Even as a informal, in other words, because if we are concerned about open space and we're concerned, we have these different goals, is there any, underneath any umbrella for us to be able to say,
Yeah, how does an
would you
advisory
please-
board get
Right.
into
It would be
that?
nice.
I'm not sure.
The way we even learned about this was Bob Greenstein put it in his newsletter. Like, it
We
wasn't
would
like,
never have known as a town board,
right,
as a town conservation board.
right. I
But
just,
so
I
just
remember
thinking,
reading
how
it going
can
like,
we-
planting.
How can we
conservation,
start
like,
connecting
yeah.
those
Right,
dots so that
yeah.
we
Maybe it's
hear?
because the town's doing it,
Right.
perhaps.
Well, if they wanted permission to use this, to use town property for that. I guess the only other thing is, it's talking about disturbing, planting. They're not removing something that would trigger within a wetland buffer, they're adding to the planting.
Mhm.
There's nothing in.
Are they not removing anything?
No,
In other words,
they-
then this habitat all stays over here?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that, just from looking at this, I think this is the focus.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I see,
Because
other
someone
than
might see
capturing-
this, right, it's taken me a while to go from seeing it as a human
Right.
to trying to see it as a wildlife.
Right.
So someone who's creating this beautiful, very structured space for a memorial,
Right.
they might see all that shrubbery around the edges as a mess. That's what I'm thinking. In other words, and they're thinking they want to have this visual, if we could encourage them to think of that as actually habitat, maybe they might leave it, but if you're saying
The
they're not
question
gonna
is
take
like,
anything out.
who is even doing this?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's a big question.
Company, I think, who's doing it, and I don't think they're doing, cause if they were to take anything from that stream border, that would be removing from a designated wetland.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, within the buffer.
If you're telling me this is, are these stones existing in
Yeah,
this
I
little
think so,
circular thing,
yeah.
then it just feels like from looking at this,
That's all they're
They're
doing.
doing
that
the
this
circle.
is the focus.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
that could be.
why do you wanna deal with this?
It might
You
be
know what I mean?
totally
To
natural.
plant a tree and
Right,
plant
it makes
daffodils,
sense.
I wouldn't wanna
Put a
deal with
weeping
that,
cherry
you know?
and daffodils around it.
Yeah,
that-
exactly.
That could be,
Yeah,
which
that's
would
all I
be-
see, yeah.
yeah, then we're not,
By the
there's no
bench,
issue.
your focus is not getting towards the water.
It would be taking too much on.
Yeah, well said, that's kind of where my mind was at also.
And I don't think it's a tremendous enough, I'm not sure if it's daffodils, but it's not thousands, right?
Right,
Where they
right.
would, take all the soil up, cause then I would be worried about disturbing soil
Right,
and making the conditions primed for, if they just clear the top 6 layers to put their bulbs in,
right,
which is one strategy for planting large numbers of bulbs, then that just makes all that vulnerable area for invasives to come in. But I think that's already in a very, already landscaped area that they're planting them, and I don't think that,
okay, it looks that way, that's, yeah.
although I will say, it's hard to do it from the art, it's beautiful, it's a lovely, but when you look at this schematic, it's so much easier, because you know exactly where everything is.
Right, right.
And it shows exactly what is going to be modified and what is not. But they would need to have a permit if they were to do anything with that stream border, right? Cause that's wetland.
Yeah, unless, you were looking to cut, not uproot, but, if somebody wanted to trim hedges, you
Right.
can't stop them from trimming hedges if they're overgrowing onto
It's
them,
like
for example.
pruning,
Yeah,
right.
So when you see
that's allowed.
these are not plantings, these are just noting existing, right, so if this is the
That's what
bench,
I believe, yeah.
these guys, they're not gonna
Yeah.
plant there.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. Okay, let's see, thank you, retaining wall, gazebo. Okay. It would be interesting to visit, I don't know if you've walked over there,
No, that I have not, yeah.
but the last I remember this, I
Yeah.
don't know how old this photo is, but it was completely filled in, and things were in and out of there. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, they're gonna cut it down. But it just makes me think, is there anything that could be salvaged? There were some native plants in here. Could they be picked up and moved, instead of
Okay,
killed?
sure.
I don't know, but,
Okay,
Well, that's a really good point. So the town planted this, so the shrubbery and the perennials and that belongs to the town, right? So if they are removing those to plant something else,
Right.
then that could go to another location within the town.
yeah, if it's, if
Salvageable,
it's suitable
right.
and can survive, yeah,
Right.
then sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could ask, I didn't get the impression that this was gonna, be put in to sacrifice other
Right.
plantings. It makes it, I mean, if I'm looking at this and if it looks different, then I accept that, but, this isn't exactly in March, so it does look like that there's room for other things if
Right.
people wanted to try to maneuver a weeping cherry into there.
yeah, I'd be so
They're not
curious when
tremendous,
that
so.
photo was taken, who knows? I'll have to go visit it, because I haven't been there in months. Okay, interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure, I found it, so. So, 4 and 5, I'm gonna kind of put them together, cause actually one is a 4A that I didn't include. So I know that Missy's not here and she wanted to set up dates with this person, right? So, like I mentioned, I was gonna release, I wanna do it tomorrow, release that RFP, so the 50 trees at Glazier, so I know this ain't the greatest map with all my notes on it, but, so, if you come off and go into the parking lot, there's a little low spot here that comes off the road, and one of the species that's coming in is red maple. And I'm concerned red maple needs sort of like a little damper floodplainy type of environment. So, and I remember I talked to Steve about this and he said, that's probably a good idea for red maple. I think they tried to put spruce there and he said it didn't work. And I said, yeah, spruce doesn't like it damp. So this area is gonna, what's nice about that area, there's the reason I wrote multiflora rose here is because I tried to pace off, because as you see, I kinda had to come up with some sort of planting plan of how I'm gonna squeeze all these trees in. So, this is kinda like the limits of where, the toe slope of the parking lot to where that multiflora rose is, I could put 10 trees in there, so I felt comfortable about that. And I'm going to have to visit the site with both Bart of DPW and Ike of Parks, because that has to sort of be like little weed whacked and prepped prior to, and that thankfully this area is like a simple weed whacking. The other 40 trees are kind of like off the path, and what I decided to do was, there's an area that this is what I need DPW for. They have sort of like a heavier brush hog type machinery that can go in this direction. I'm stopping where there's like a larch and I guess 2 black cherries, and I want to go 10 feet in, and I'm going to be able to put, my goal is to put 40 trees here. And what just happens, the reason I'm bringing this up is that this kind of worked out, so I'm going to try to stick with this. It's all mugworty here.
I was gonna say, what's there now?
But then right
Mugwort.
here, there's this transition to, I just rather use the genus and species, Euthymia graminifolia, because that common name of flat top, slender, goldenrod, et cetera, is like, that's a longer common name than it is a. But that, it's interesting for what, and
It's
Steve
the
said the
meadow
same
area,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, there's this transition, for whatever reason, mugwort does not really advance past here. I don't know if it's elevation or whatever the reason, so 10 feet in, and whatever this worked out to be, about 115 feet in length, whack this area, and then any subsequent mowing Parks could take care of, because the trees are supposed to come in late October, and we wanted to plant that area with the 40 trees. So he should have knowledge of that. I'm assuming it's a him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because to comment on this, it would kind of be a moot point, because it's like, well, we're gonna whack it and look to plant trees there anyway, and then
Right.
when they go in, the contractor has to do, I wrote in like 6 months of maintenance with respect to, gator bags until early December, and, a lot of herbivory fencing, and, I'm even putting those guards that you suggested around the trees, right, because Steve said to me, he says, we've had deer actually plow through, and I guess they wanna do that to like
Right.
nice young
Yeah.
trees, so
Especially
they
now,
have,
winters.
I found some that are available in various lengths, so I spec'd that in and said, whatever length is appropriate based on species, because we got 5 different species, we're gonna put that on there as well. So at least for those 6 months, that's kinda like how that's going to be protected, and then after they walk away, they being the contractor, I'll debate whether I wanna leave the fencing up or not, I probably will, and I'll debate whether I wanna leave those collars on or not, at least early on, for the reason that you said, because if this is gonna now represent sort of areas that maybe not mowed as frequently as obviously the path that everybody uses,
Right.
but like infrequent, to sort of just keep it, in that kind of meadowy fashion with the trees, then I would want those sort
Right.
of areas
So
protected, so.
where the trees are going to go is primarily right now the Artemisia. Or this is gonna be where the meadow area was, so in other words, they're going to clear that and then put the trees.
Right, and
Even the aster or just the mugwort?
I'm telling you that the majority of what would disappear is mugwort,
Right.
and what else was hitting me in the legs? I think there was a little raspberry, it was that I forgot which one it was, but it was something
Okay.
that didn't feel pleasant.
Okay.
So, and then again, that's why I, just for my own, I'm like, there's no reason to whack this. I said, so I think we could fit it all in here, so that's kind of the goal.
So they'll continue to weed whack as the management strategy for that undergrowth
I'll
around
have
the
to,
trees.
right, we'll have to discuss that going forward. For now, I'm just, hoping to get the trees in and hoping that they make it.
Okay, alright. And then, so I'm not clear on this with the allelopathy, so is it just affecting perennials, it doesn't affect trees at all? With what mugwort, it affects grasses, so it will, whatever, it has allelopathic tendencies, what they say, it's not as if it's an assassin, kills them, but it certainly does reduce its competition
Right.
by secreting that, and
Right.
Wait, what does that?
the mugwort.
Oh, it does,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah,
didn't
there's,
know.
there's 2 different, one will do that to make conditions more favorable for itself.
Right,
Then there are other trees or other plants,
Plants.
frag is one of them, that
right.
its intent is to kill you.
Right.
You know, they're not making it beneficial for me. I'm looking to eliminate you. And I think
Right.
garlic mustard has the same
Oh, yeah,
property.
yeah,
So
But
So, yes.
and other grasses are susceptible, so I know that it had been a problem with repopulating dune grass, for example,
see.
with that, so grasses are very susceptible. I don't know if trees are, so that was my only thing with that. I mean, I just know that that was the explanation for why it was just not working over,
Oh,
you know,
I see what you're
because
saying.
it was probably the
Right.
So the question is, does
Are the trees gonna be okay?
mugwort,
Right.
even if you remove it,
Right.
have, what's the property called?
what the
Alley-
allelopathic,
allopathic
but the thing is, if you're
Impact on trees.
if you're weed whacking it, the root system is still intact, you're weakening
Right,
it,
right.
but the root system is still intact.
Right.
So I'm just not sure if that's a problem or not a problem.
Right, no, I mean, it's a good point, and obviously, you know, the area that I'm doing is also gonna be dug up to accommodate 40 tree pits.
Right.
So,
There's
so
not
that
gonna be-
obviously is gonna
right.
eliminate some. And then the other point, I think, going forward, you know, from a long-term perspective, if 40 trees could make it, you know, whatever shading that provides, cause mugwort is not a shade fan,
Right,
as you
right.
know, right? So it's kind of, you know, attacking it from that sort of
Okay, good.
perspective, and then
It'll turn to shading.
yeah, and even if, you know, even if the roots are there, I mean, if the maintenance of, you know, and again, we're doing this in the fall, so I don't expect like a huge regrowth, but right, coming next year, that becomes sort of the discussion of, you know, okay, so Parks is the one that mows the path, and obviously when the deer fencing goes up, you know, we have to make accommodations for, the contractor to be able to, you know, access and egress the area to, you know, fill gator bags, remove gator bags in December, you know, do pruning, you know, resetting of trees, which would be in the spring if they didn't, you know, if the cabling didn't hold. So there are ways to sort of get in there.
Right.
And then, like I said, as time goes on, you know, I probably, at least for early spring, I might keep the fencing up, and then I'm gonna decide what to do as time goes on, and they would remove it, and then at that point, now it's open, and it's like, okay, now let's talk about maintenance of this area, cause even if it is, cause I still feel that, you know, even the mowing would still control things, even though their roots are there, that, you know, and then, you know, give the trees sort of its best opportunity, and then, you know, hopefully at a later date, if you wanna discuss, like, okay, so now what are we gonna plant, you know, or look to seed underneath trees, and
Yeah,
how to
just
do
to-
that, that
yeah.
would be a great
That was
future.
one question.
So,
Why all of them in the same area? How big is this space that all
Well,
40 will go?
right, there has to be sort of like an efficacy of, you know, we have 50 trees, we have to plant them, and to have the contractor kind of like, you know, I didn't want to wildcat throughout that, because I did get the opportunity to walk this whole thing, which gets me to number 5. And, you know, really, only 10 of the trees for me are kind of, you know, marginally, I mean, I know, I believe we have sycamore there, fact wet, but I see them in upland environments too, so it just seemed like that this to me was the opportunity to, you know, you just enter the, you know, Glazier Preserve, it's all mugwort, you know, this is the area to just, like, to me, you know, we're leaving meadow everywhere else at this point, but it makes it easy to plant the 40, it makes it easy to protect the 40, you know, in terms of the deer, and it's just, you know, I think for an entrance into something like this, it's not, you know, the worst sort of view.
Are you thinking of integrating understory, like shrubs and underneath there?
Maybe at some point, you know.
Just for habitat too, I'm just
I
thinking,
agree.
are we gonna create a multi-kind,
Right.
you know, the tree canopy?
I agree, but for now, it's just focusing on these, cause you know, I guess 25 of them were free, I guess technically,
Are
so
we leaving
through that
space, like,
micro
It was
program.
certainly the head start,
They're,
and having an area with that is really accomplishing a goal of just the sheer number that they have, having them all in one location and easy in and easy out is easy, you know,
Creates a
right there.
grove, a whole grove
A
right
growth
there.
to do that, and actually, it's the perfect to piggyback on other funding for the shrub layer, and if we're able to keep protection, because one of the biggest problems, the shrubs are gone because of the deer. So if we already have the fencing up, then maybe year 2 is really adding a shrub layer, we
Yeah.
still have some protection.
Yeah.
And more with the shade tolerant, we could do things like spice bush, which is not really deer tolerant, but fairly deer resistant, well, depends. But still very shade tolerant, and then what you're doing is when we're removing the barberry and the multiflora rose from everywhere else, we're giving a habitat in this area.
Right, I guess I'm just thinking almost like on a design level, will there be space left and
Yeah,
they'll fill in if it
they
comes
go
up.
in, I
They're
mean,
all shaded and then it gives us fewer options. of
right, I
what
think
to
I had to
do.
figure out like 3 rows, so each row is 8 feet on center, and then I decided to was I able to get 12 and 12, right, so it's a front row 12 and 12, so it's 12 feet between rows. I haven't, obviously I gotta get it mowed before I could stake it out, but I'm one, I'd said in the proposal, I'll stake out where the trees need to go, so the contractor's not selecting that. And then from there, I usually try to do staggered rows for that reason,
Yeah.
so that there's,
Also, if it feels more
Yeah.
natural, right, then
yeah.
more formal.
Yeah, you can't be too, cause contractors like, so it's a whole,
He's probably a wildlifey guy though.
this guy, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But he's
for
not doing
this-
the
Right,
planting.
this is the one, this is through the town that we're issuing the RFP, so.
But will he help say where the plant should go? Or the RFP?
He's coming in after this.
No, he's
This
coming
is-
in, he's
Oh,
coming in
This is-
after, this is just.
This is a quick and dirty.
Right,
The RFP is just for the planting, once you tell them where to plant.
yeah, my concern is that, on October 27th, 50 trees are coming.
Right, what do you do with them?
What do I do with them?
Right.
Because, they need to
Don't
be
wanna
shaded, they
leave
need to be
them, yeah.
moistened, they
Right,
gotta
yeah,
be
right,
planted
right,
almost
gotta get 'em in the
immediately,
ground.
gotta
You
get
don't
them
want
off
them
the
to
truck,
die,
right,
yeah.
yeah,
You
so,
inherited 50 plants.
Yeah,
yes, yeah, so.
right, and you gotta get them in the
It's funny, I
ground.
had Steve review my RFP, he says, I think the only, my comment would be is I thought about putting silt fencing along here to go against the wetland, he says, it's probably overkill, and I said, yeah, you're right, cause you're gonna dig a pit, how long is that pit gonna be a pit? It's gonna be a pit, hopefully no more than an hour, cause the
Right.
trees gotta go in and then we're backfilling, so it's like, and then mulching over that, so I'm like, good point, so. And then
Okay.
to this last point here, so,
Yeah.
this had to do with your trail conference award, okay? So,
Mine, you looked at me, do I have
I-
a trail conference?
did you, is it you?
I don't think
I thought,
so.
who proclaimed, did you proclaim it? I'm sorry, I apologize. So,
What have I done now?
no,
I don't know who.
so, one of the
Is it
things that we have to do, which we have on our phones, myself and Bart at DPW is that when residents call to complain about a tree that they feel is on town property and is dead and needs to be removed, or, and then we have to determine, A, is it on town property, and B, what is the condition? So after I took, what a great Friday it was to just, hike through all of here, when I got back, Kellen was the one who put it on the phone for us. I said, Kellen, I said, and obviously I would wait until winter, cause you have to get all the leaves off the trees for, to get the greatest reception. I said, but I walked through, all these areas, I said, there's definitely some trees down that are in front of the pathways. I said, what if I were to use the tree phone app, like to go through Glazier or go through any park and just say, okay, here I am, and it has, your coordinates, and then I could enter on an app, the issue, tree across whatever, and it actually locates it so that you could locate it on a map. And then if you were to get, the volunteers, cause if their goal is to plan, develop, maintain and protect trails, someone's lugging a chainsaw up there to basically have to cut, there's not, some of these trees are of size, you're not doing it by a handsaw, but you don't want a wildcat while having to lug a chainsaw, and that's a heavy item. So if you could generate, for example, using Glazier as an example, a map where, okay, dot, there's 4 spots where we have to worry about just cutting.
Right, you don't have to worry about
That,
finding it.
that's something that, to, if you had to sort of show, do you have a project in mind? Do you
Right.
have an intent in mind? Do you have a goal in mind? It's
Right.
like, well, as a matter of fact, this is what we have for, what is our
Right.
Glazier Preserve, and we have, according to our environmental coordinator, there's 5 large trees that are over paths that either have to be climbed over, walked under, or go way around, and
Right.
we need those to sort of be opened up again, so that's just one example.
So is that part of the New York, New Jersey
Yeah.
trail.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I'm sorry,
Yes.
yeah.
Because my understanding is that the only project that I knew that they sponsor is actually coordinating with volunteers on, I don't wanna say cleanup, but maintenance.
right, that we
So-
would get people in a room and
Right.
be trained how to go out and work with them.
Right, so I'm not sure about the use of heavy,
Yeah.
of equipment,
Okay.
whether they have that capability, because that's a separate, kind of a certification type of thing to use that. I know, I think they do injectors for knotweed, but they have very specific what they can and can't do,
Okay.
on a volunteer, recruitment basis for that. So I'd have to check on that. There were no chainsaws
No, okay,
with that when I was there, because part of the thing too is that it also gets into whether you're climbing, which is a whole another level, because you have to be then certified
Yeah, yeah.
as the not an
you need to climb a
arborist.
tree.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, no, I wouldn't,
Right, so
I
this
wouldn't be
is-
at that
It's just
level
talking
for
about
sure.
cutting
trail.
stuff on the
Yeah,
ground.
and somebody else
Yeah.
must have cut in the past,
Yeah.
cause there's obviously
Yeah.
evidence of, you know,
Cut trees, yeah.
interruptions that, yeah, from a tree that fell, so.
Right,
Right.
you go
And
this
again,
way.
maybe, you know, Steve might know the answer, be like, oh yeah, it was done through, you know, the fund for Glazier as a sub to the tree bank, okay, then
Right.
that's it.
Well, I don't wanna say that anyone is chainsaw happy, but I do know that when we had someone from Park and Rec, that we were hacking away at just a large grapevine, and John had run and came back with a chainsaw, and at first we thought overkill, cause we don't operate with a chainsaw, but after seeing him make short work of that, we're like,
I want a chainsaw.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, they have a place, they do.
that is awesome, yeah, because he was able to do that in such a short period of time, so again, I don't know if they did, we can find that out, but I'm not quite sure
Okay.
exactly if they do, at that level.
I mean, I don't need an excuse to do this anyway, I mean,
Right.
you'll have, you know, I'll be happy to do it, you know,
Right.
again, I want the leaves to come off, but just to get the
Yeah,
reception,
yeah. It has terrible reception up in that area anyway.
Okay.
I go up there, I can never get any.
Well, we got lost, we couldn't have
Oh,
reception,
that's
right?
right,
We
yeah.
couldn't find each other, we literally were like, who had the red jacket?
I don't need it, you know, cause I'm a power broker, you know, other than safety, like, you know, hey, I can't get out, help.
And we
Anything else I have
take
to
out
fix?
the wood, we would move the wood, but keep it in the preserve.
Oh, yeah, you're just looking to clear the trail. Yeah, I'm not lugging the logs out of there, that's for sure, yeah.
So that's it?
That basically was it, yeah.
Yeah, and then Missy wanted to set up a meeting with Penn at Glazier, with you, Missy, myself, and anyone else who wanted to join.
Okay,
And she wanted today for somebody to come up with potential dates. So
Okay.
that,
I'll respond to her email if that's okay, cause I
That's
think
fine.
things are pretty open, but I'll make sure I respond to her email with the dates,
Okay.
that I'm okay.
That's exciting,
That's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Good job.
great.
Yeah, thank you.
and on the website, we should wait till after they're planted, but so they're
Oh, yeah.
scheduled to be planted in October.
12th or something, you said.
Very late October.
Very late October,
Yeah.
so maybe in November, we can make the announcement that 15 trees were planted
Right.
Yeah.
You can
at,
come and take a picture.
at,
Yeah,
right,
that's our-
put that up
We
there.
talked about inviting people to come and watch the trees being planted, remember that?
Oh, yeah, it's sort of like a
I'll
community.
I'll let you know when it starts.
That would be great, and we can invite kids to come and see the trees being planted,
Right.
it could be
Right.
like
People
fun.
put in,
is
The
it something
town's
that
like-
happens
you
in
can serve
a
apple
day or
cider or
many days or?
I think I'm
so
giving
cute.
them anticipated that it'll be done in like 5 days. And that, you know, any preferably the day of delivery, but understanding timing of delivery and whatnot, that planting would have to start the next day. So, and that any, you know, no holes left behind kind of thing, like anything that's started, obviously complete the tree planting, and then whatever can't be, you know, those bulb burlap have to be stored moist, you know, shaded, et cetera, until they go into the ground, so.
That is great, I mean, when's the last time trees were planted at, at Glazier? I mean, of course, natural seeding if you're getting them, but still, that is
So we
that
should
is
really
great.
make a big deal,
I
I mean,
hope.
invite people to come, maybe we could serve apple cider, make it like this fall event
Yeah.
for people to see what's happening and before it starts, like a kickoff of some sort.
All those people who complain about all the trees being cut down,
Yeah.
you tell them, well, here's
I
some
guess it's a
going.
carbon sequestration, you know,
And Bedford
Amazon.
2020, as good as they get, their tree, the sale of their small trees, just, it's been very hard. I think they've only sold maybe less than 100. They've just knocked it out of the park with everything, but that shows the resistance to planting large hardwood trees.
Interesting.
Wait, so say that again?
Bedford
Yeah?
2020 on their website.
Yeah.
Has this where you can buy a small tree, you can
Okay.
buy an
For-
oak or maple.
For your own yard or for
your
like?
own yard.
Okay,
With
okay.
that, and the sales have been very low, and the
Oh, yeah?
concern is that the message that our trees are important for pollinators is when people think of pollinator, they think of a coneflower, they think of perennials, midsummer perennials, they don't think of the
trees.
ends,
The
they
trees
don't
are
think
so
of trees.
important.
And so, something, yeah, that celebrates trees, especially all those red maples are gonna be one of the first sources for the
Yeah.
bees.
Critically
They're really-
important,
yeah,
and
they're
red
really-
buds
yeah.
are critically
I
important.
love red.
And so it's something that, to have that number of trees, it's not easy. I know, you did that beautiful oak at the school. But it is, we tried to do a memorial tree with an oak, no, thank you. I was like,
What do you mean? Yeah.
I was seriously, I'm like, trust me,
Oh,
you
they're
want this
such
oak,
wonderful
you want that oak.
trees.
I got some free trees once from the guy at Laston.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
guys know Tom?
Oh,
Yeah,
Tom
from
is
Kowalski,
wonderful,
wherever.
isn't he great? Yeah.
And I wanted white oak. So there were like little
Little teeny
baby
babies.
sticks. And I think I had 8 of them. And I planted them in my yard. And they're like basically bigger sticks now.
I know,
Yeah.
they
They're like-
grow so slow.
I know, they're so slow. And I'm
Really
like,
slow.
they're still sticks.
Yeah,
I'm like-
they're gonna be teeny.
Okay, Lucille, along with
Yeah,
these,
I'm
Lucille,
planning
that
with
I
my
will give you,
grandchildren.
you can get ones that are bigger like this, because they're all growing in the very wrong places, so they're
Oh,
bigger.
white oaks?
White oaks.
Oh yeah, I'll take them. And I also got at the tree sale, I got the tulip tree, and that one actually didn't die.
Fast.
That didn't
Like
die.
3 feet a year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're great.
that one
I
didn't
got one
get
from,
eaten or die.
Arbor Day Foundation, it was like this big, it is now like 40 feet in my backyard.
Really?
I planted it like 6 years ago.
Woo!
It's humongous.
In
You have to
6
see it, it's
years?
gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh my god,
Giant.
these little oak things. I mean, it's
They're
been more than
totally
6
different.
years. Like they're really like.
And once they get a little bit bigger, then they shoot up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's,
There's something called a dwarf chinkapin oak that I learned about years ago. That it will bear acorns after only like 10 years, as opposed to 50 for, and so it took me so long to find them, but I bought them from like a nursery in Lincoln, Nebraska. And they're growing, I haven't seen an acorn yet, but they're really cute.
so
and
they're dwarf, how?
they're shrubby trees.
Oh, okay,
So they'll
alright.
get to be like 20 or 30 feet.
Okay, cause there's a
So-
small tulip tree too, because the concern with the tulip trees is that they're so very
Like a
tall.
cultivar of a tulip?
Of a tulip tree,
Interesting.
I can't talk
I know,
anymore
I
today.
know, we're all like,
And I think it tops off 25 to 30 feet, which is also
Interesting.
nice because then you get to see the blooms more easily.
Oh,
Because
right, you
usually
can't see them.
They're
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
60
well,
feet
it's
off the
obviously-
ground
Right,
and you
they're
see
all the
them
way
only
up.
when they fall.
Yeah, if you're ever on Route 22, in White Plains, entrance to the cemetery, so if you're heading towards North White Plains and you already cross over 287,
Yeah.
just look on your left, 2 giant
Wow.
tulips like at the entrance of, and I mean giant, and I'm not talking up, I'm talking like around, it's a mess.
Wow,
Every year I drive by, or every time I drive by, I'm like, okay, they're still up good.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
that's great.
That's fun.
Yeah, but yeah, I think there should be a ban on planting Japanese maples.
Oh, I know.
Oh, I know.
I see one more
It's
Japanese
like the
maple going in
least
front of
beneficial.
streets.
Yeah, I mean-
Absolutely no benefit.
Anything